This is Jenna Burt, host of the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey, this is Lee.
And this is Chelsea.
And we are the host of your new favorite sales podcast, See Jane Sell.
Join us every Thursday for a new episode where we will tackle the realistic world of sales and maybe teach you a thing or two along the way.
You can subscribe to See Jane Sell on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Spotify. Thanks, and enjoy the following podcast on Public House Media.
Today's verse of the day comes from Genesis 2:7. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Good morning. Welcome to Verse of the Day, presented by Public House Media. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn. I'm grateful that you're here. We are officially starting the season of Lent here on Verse of the Day, and in general, of course. This is an exciting time as we get ready to explore what the next several weeks have as we lead up to the incredible celebration that is Easter. We are going to have incredible guest speakers during the time of Lent. Today we have a really wonderful one that you've already experienced a couple of weeks ago, and I'm excited to introduce her in just a moment. But I really want to encourage you, as we go through the season of Lent, take time as you listen to this show, take time in your own life to set apart just one-on-one time with you and God to be able to do a lot of self-reflection, because the season of Lent, what many people often do is they are trying to figure out things that they can either give up or do more during their life, during their season that is Lent. And for myself and for my family, that's a time of reflection that we continue to keep honing in on, and I hope you do the same also. I would love to be able to know how I can pray for you and how I can just use the platform that is Verse of the Day. If there's certain verses or certain things or topics that you're struggling with in your life, I'd love to know how we can tailor the content here to hopefully speak and help to you. You can email the show by going to verseofthedaypod, that's P-O-D, @gmail.com, and I would love to hear from you. Today I am thrilled to introduce Brooklyn Pursley. She is back on the show after a couple of weeks. She is here once again to talk about the verse that I previously mentioned, Genesis 2:7. As we get ready to kick off Lent, I couldn't think of a better person to start our discussion than with Brooklyn. Let's see what she has to say for us today.
So the first part of the verse lends itself to talk about the material formation of man, his actual physical body. And interestingly, in one of the commentaries I was reading, it looked at the verbs, and whenever the creation of humans was happening, the word formed was used. But whenever the creation of animals was being talked about or described, they used the word created or made. And that makes you picture God as a potter, using his hands to put intricate details and just taking that extra care in regard to the human creation, which is pretty cool. But this verse also talks about how we were formed out of dust. Not diamond dust, not gold flecks, not any mother of pearl, amazing, wonderful stuff. Literal dirt and dust from the ground. Plain old dust. And that always makes me think of the insult, dirt bag. Adam was the literal dirt bag, and we are literal bags of dirt. We are made from the dust of the ground. And God's a pretty amazing creator if he can take that and turn it into all of the wonderful humans that you see on a day-to-day basis. Well, mostly wonderful. But anyway, there's a Bob Goff quote also that I liked that made me think of this verse, and it says, "The canvas doesn't tell the artist what to paint." And with that, it makes me think of, like, we didn't have any say in how we were created or why we were created. God just took care of all of that. It's his design. It's not ours, which is a good thing because we tend to mess things up. But God created us. But we put a lot of stock in what we do and what we create and what our truth is and what our rules are. And that's backwards because God created us and he gave us the purpose. And in exchange for that, he gets to make the rules too because he knows better. He definitely knows better than what I do. And I've learned that by falling on my face quite a few times. But the rest of the verse talks about the formation of the immaterial part of man, the soul. So I want you to picture the life of an average house cat or any pet. They lay around, they eat food, they nap whenever, they sunbathe by the windows. It doesn't sound like a bad deal at all, especially on some days when you are dead tired and exhausted. Sounds like the ideal, actually. I would love to just lay around and eat food and nap all day and have everybody take care of everything for me. But after a while of that going on, we'd get bored. The second part of the verse talks about how God breathed. He got up close and personal, and he breathed into the nostrils of Adam and breathed his soul into him. And it gave him that extra piece that delineates us and makes us different than just a beast of the field. God took that extra care again when he was making human creation. He didn't design us to just lay around like a fat house cat. No matter how desirable it may seem, it's not a good way to go about having a happy and purposeful life. So my takeaway from this verse is simply, you're a dirtbag. No, I'm totally kidding. Absolutely kidding. My takeaway is that God intricately designed you so that you could glorify him. He created each and every single one of us with so much detail, so differently, formed us out of that dust into the beings that we are, and breathed our souls into us so that we could go out and we could glorify him. And our charge is to do simply that, to go out and glorify him in any way we can.